We continue to follow developing news now. Ontario NDP Leader Marit Stiles is responding to the Ford government's reversal on the Peel Region dissolution. Let's listen in.
Basically just saying this is not going to happen. What does it say about her legacy as the mayor of Mississauga, an iconic figure in this country, died at 101 in January? They name this legislation after her. They give her her deathbed wish, and then what does that say?
Look, I mean, I think it's very unfortunate, that part of this, clearly, but I think Mr. Ford's reputation is damaged not just because of this deathbed promise he may have broken, but because he's mired in scandal, because it's a pattern of behavior. Making a promise to someone, anyone, an insider, sometimes it's a land speculator, making decisions that are not based on good evidence, but on who he knows and who's asking for the changes without any evidence and without actually listening to the people who are going to be most impacted.
Municipalities don't seem to be getting the funding they're looking for to replace the development charges that they would have lost. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things about that. I think that municipalities, one of the most. So sorry, the question was about the efficiencies thing?
The province took away the developer charges and isn't necessarily replacing them, canceling the audits that it had done to determine how they were misspending in the government's view the development charges. Now they're not replacing them.
But the government hasn't made good on their promise to actually make municipalities whole. They're making another U-turn on these audits. Mr. Ford, one of his favorite pastimes seems to be bringing in consultants to look for quote-unquote efficiencies. But this is a government that has downloaded service after service and actually slashed the money that municipalities get to deliver those services. They've starved municipalities, and now they're saying they're inefficient. I think the truth is there was never any fat on those bones. And I think, again, seeing the government make these, U-turns, it gives you a sense of the fact that this was not a decision that was made based on evidence or facts or anything. I did want to make sure I said, this government needs to start working with experts. They need to start listening to the people of this province, and they need to start working with the opposition, too, because we warned them about almost all of these issues. We've been raising these issues for months and months and months, and almost every decision that this government has made in the last year, they've had to reverse course on. If they would have they've wasted enormous money and time, and a lot of people have been impacted. What's the number? 600? Or was it 600 employees in Peel Region who have already left their jobs, municipal employees, because of the level of anxiety and uncertainty that they were facing. I've mentioned before, and I've raised this with the government, 80 organizations, community organizations, dealing with everything from emergency shelter to violence against women to food banks, who came and met with me. I went to Peel Region to meet with them, actually, to tell me how much time and effort they were putting into trying to figure out how they were going to navigate the dissolution and ensure that people continued to receive the services they needed. Imagine how much money and time and resources they have put into those community-based organizations alone have wasted over the last, few months, when they should have been providing care and service to members in the community who needed it, people who are in real crisis. I see this as deeply irresponsible of the government. And, people have asked me already if there's a price for them to pay. I think there's many prices they're going to have to pay. But the biggest price they're going to pay is a loss in confidence of the people of Peel Region, because they've been dragged through this chaos yet again. To what end? They're pawns in a political chess game that none of them asked to be part of.
Marit, it seems like the decision was made without the full input of the actual breakdown of what this would actually cost from the transition board. It seems like they haven't actually crunched the numbers. Yeah. Do you think this was a decision made on actual financial calculations or political calculations?
The decision to reverse course?
Yes.
Oh, I think, who knows? I can only imagine what factors the government has suddenly been looking at. But I think, at the end of the day, just like the decision was made for political game, it was probably reversed for the same crass political purposes. And leaving that transition board in place is just, in my opinion, an attempt to legitimize a process that they set in motion that had no purpose, that had no, that the people of Peel, the experts were not asking for. And, let's be clear, right? This isn't exactly happening at the best of times. I mean, this is a time when, if you talk to people in Peel Region, regular people, their priorities are making rent. Their priorities are being able to pay for groceries. How am I going to afford to give my kids gifts over the holidays? Am I going to lose my home because of mortgage payments? These are the things people are struggling with, and none of this took any of that into consideration.
Marit, does it make sense to you that Calandra's explanation that because they passed this legislation, they were therefore able to set up a task force? Couldn't they set up a task force without this legislation?
Of course, absolutely. They could have absolutely set up a task force without having legislation. They just wanted to have a bill. And just like every other bill, they're now going to have to introduce a bill to repeal said bill. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like and what they're going to call it. I hate to say, but I think it's creating, like, the province of Ontario is not a circus, right? We deserve good government. We deserve responsible government. We deserve government that actually has the best interests of Ontarians at heart and not silly games. And, the government has shown just in the last few weeks, their lack of, I think, respect for the taxpayers, for the people of Ontario, and for the Parliament and the legislature.
Mark, one of the changes that is going ahead is this idea that the regions don't need to be involved in planning, and only the lower tier municipalities will handle all the planning approvals. I haven't been able to figure out quite how that works. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think that, look, I'm going to be curious to see what legislation the government brings forward in the new year. I don't have all the details yet either. For all we know, by the time Mr. Calandra made it to the end of the hall outside the media room, maybe the plans changed again. Who knows? They are making up policy on the back of a napkin, and that's not good government. They should move aside. If they can't get this done, they should move aside and let somebody else do it.
Do you think it's aimed at Bonnie Crumpy?
I think we've seen in the last week Ms. Crombie doubling down. I don't know if she was wearing her Mayor of Mississauga hat or her Liberal leader hat, but doubling down on this at a time when everything was pointing to the fact that this was a terrible deal, once again, for Peel Region, which is something we have maintained from the beginning. It was a deal that was never properly thought out or consulted on. It caused chaos and it caused stress with workers in the region, with residents in the region. It was a bad deal. I can't speak to the nature of the political backroom discussions that the leader of the Conservative Party may have had with the leader of the Liberal Party, but I got to tell you, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth as a resident of this province who's tired of seeing a government that is, playing fast and loose with the laws. I mean, changing laws just so that they can set things up so that when they're not found guilty of misfeasance, things like this. This is outrageous. This is not how government should be run in the province of Ontario. It makes us look terrible. We look like a laughingstock. I think the Ford government needs to do better.
You talked about this as an expensive mess. Just how much money do you think this has wasted?
I hope that, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of the municipalities may have a better estimate of that, but I would consider it significant. If you think of all of the municipal employees and the time and energy that has gone into this, whatever they've had to pay for their panel, and again, there are costs that will never really be captured because I think probably some of the greatest costs, given the community-based organizations, nonprofits that I've been meeting with, those 80 that I spoke about, the amount of time and energy that they've had to put into trying to anticipate what was coming here, trying to raise their concerns at all levels, this is time and energy that should have been spent, and they would have much preferred to spend actually serving people in the region of Peel. I think it's almost impossible to estimate how significant the cost is. But the government, given that they've already failed to make municipalities whole when it comes to development charges and such, I can't imagine they're going to come anywhere close to trying to resolve this with the region of Peel.
When the minister says that the lessons learned in Peel region will be applied more broadly to the other regions that they are investigating reforms to, what does that sound like to you?
Well, I mean, again, I don't know how many times a government has to reverse course and do a complete U-turn before they realize that they're approaching everything the wrong way. So you have to start from the premise of consult people, listen to the experts, don't ram through legislation on a whim. That would be a good place to start. If you look at the last year, at least in this province, just take the last year alone, they have reversed course on almost every major decision. I would say the only good news coming out of that for the people of Ontario is that we can win things. And we have done that. We have won the reversal of the Greenbelt and the NZOs. We have reversed the urban boundary expansions. Now we have reversed the Peel dissolution, right? I will not stop pushing until we reverse course on healthcare privatization. But at the end of the day, reversing course only is just we have wasted so much time. What we really need to be doing is building housing, truly affordable housing, passing laws that will actually help people in the province of Ontario, funding healthcare properly. These are the focuses that this government should have, and they have failed at, and we have wasted a year.
So, Marit, looking ahead to tomorrow, what do you think? Should they reverse course on their plan to allow corner stores to sell beer, wine, cider, cooler?
I mean, look, when it comes to that, I'm certainly interested in seeing what they are going to put forward. I want to see the details of it. I am concerned about the potential loss of maybe thousands of good unionized jobs in the process. As we've raised some of the things that we need to see in this plan, and one of those is job protection and good union jobs. We need to make sure that there's measures in place to ensure harm reduction. Those jobs are important jobs. They're a big responsibility. We want to ensure that products are sold by people who are actually equipped to deal with the sales of alcoholic beverages. But, I'm going to wait and see what the details are. And I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
But in general, do you approve of the idea of corner stores and convenience stores selling alcohol?
I mean, we're not opposed to it in principle, but again, with the caveat that we are losing some important jobs, unionized jobs, people who have really good benefits, for example, which are really important, especially right now in the province of Ontario, and that we want to make sure that the people that are delivering that service, it's an important job, that they're trained appropriately. I will say we've seen this government make changes when it comes to the sale of alcohol and related to alcoholic beverages and stuff before, and not followed through, or else had pretty disastrous results. So we'll wait and see. All right, then.
Thanks.
Can't wait to see what they reverse on tomorrow. Thank you very much.